Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing to take a look at the next week's slate, heading back out to the Pac 12, Oregon State, heading on the road to Eugene to play the Oregon Ducks Friday night. They're a game that I've had circled since the summer. This Oregon team specifically, on an absolute warpath since that loss against Washington. I don't know if you could find a team across the country that's playing at a higher level than the Oregon Ducks. Phenomenal on the offensive side of the football. Defense that I want to dive into is a group that is massively improved since last year, hosting an Oregon State team that is a legit top 15 team in the country. They just went toe to toe with the Washington Huskies, outgained the Washington Huskies very well. Could have won that game if they converted on a few red zone opportunities. This is going to be a really fun one. Really excited to get into it. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys, and especially the Pac-12 fans. This is a conference that has been a blast to talk about, but more importantly, the support from the Pac-12 fans has been absolutely amazing. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. Dill, going to give you the T-box here. Beavs, Oregon Ducks, how we feeling?
Yeah, and I agree with you in terms of pure play on the field. Ever since that Washington loss, I don't think you can look across the country at another team that's playing at as high of a level as Oregon is, and they're coming into a game that they probably have a little more top end talent, or obviously have more top end talent than the Beavers, but Oregon State, they play every game tough. They really don't beat themselves, and the resurgence of DJU's career at Oregon State, I think, makes him extremely dangerous for anyone.
Two of the most at least in my mind, like the two of the best head coaches in the game. Jonathan Smith and what he's doing in Corvallis, obviously Dan Lanning and what he's doing in Eugene. I want to start with this matchup. The Oregon State offense going up against an Oregon Ducks defense that last year, like we all remember what happened. Oregon State just kind of played some bully ball in the second half. The biggest difference in this matchup is that Oregon front seven is just meaningfully better, whether it's additions in the transfer portal or that overall Dan Lanning culture taking over, only allowing 3.3 yards per carry. That's top 20 in the country. A lot of talk goes to Bo Nix in this offense and Bucky Irvin, Troy Franklin. And yeah, it's one of the best offenses in the country. We'll get to that. Not enough people are talking about the Oregon Ducks only allowing 17.5 points per game, top 12 in the country. Yes, this Oregon offense is very good, but they're playing some really good complementary football on the defensive side of the ball as well.
And honestly, the thing for me about what Oregon's doing is you just see how much faster they're playing. Guys feels like they know what they're doing. They're playing with more conviction, and just the overall team speed that feels like they're putting on the field right now, especially with some of those safeties and linebackers. It's just taking it to a whole new level. Because last year, you're right. It didn't feel like they were playing fast. It felt like they were always behind teams. If they wanted to spread you out or attack your edges, it did feel like Oregon was a step behind, but their whole team speed, I think the linebacker especially, or linebacker play especially, is just it's way up.
I'll tell you what that's called. It's called the Dan Lanning effect. Like you can tell, you watch this Oregon defense this year and say, yeah, that makes sense. Dan Lanning is the head coach of this football team. That's how this defense looks, much more physical. And then you take a look. They've been very good against the run. Guys, Jordan Burge, Brandon Dorless, Justin Jacobs, a massive addition in the linebacker room. Evan Williams coming in the box, just being a Tasmanian devil. More importantly, the front seven's been awesome. The pass rush has been great. The secondary, I feel like got a bad rep because they gave up some big plays against the Washington Huskies. This secondary only allowing 6.2 yards per pass attempt, top 10 in the country, whether it's Kyrie Jaskin, whether it's Bridges. I think Bridges played really well. Jaleel Florence. They've made meaningful additions in the transfer portal. More importantly, just a more well-coached group in that back end. You look at all three phases, the defensive line, the backers, and the secondary. This Oregon defense meaningfully improved from last year. And going up against an Oregon State offense that, make no mistake about it, they're going to want to run the football.
And that's what, we all know Oregon State likes to do that. I think, honestly, what's made this team so dangerous is they're so good off of play action right now.
Yes.
And DJU's playing so well. He can, again, they didn't have a guy to push the ball down the field that much. And now with Bolden and Gould, they have two wide receivers who can extend the field a little bit. In DJU playing off of play action, really, really dangerous. Because, again, they run the ball so well. And the fact that they can now hit you with those explosive plays with two very good receivers and a quarterback who's obviously got a cannon. They're just like their offense is great. It's really, really good.
DJU has been, and again, the numbers might not portray how much of an impact he's had on this offense. Like Oregon State last year won 10 games with quarterback play that was not really Power 5 level. They were running the football, kind of catering to an easy quarterback. And now they're asking DJU to do a little bit more, but more specifically, this team can spread you out because DJU has that arm to make any throw to any part of the field. And just that ability allows this Oregon State offense to operate in much more space. And you said it best. You know they want to run the football. 5 yards per carry. That's top 20. It's a top 20 rushing attack in the country. Damian Martinez and Deshaun Fenwick, phenomenal running backs behind a very good offensive line. You said play action. This is a team that I don't think many people know, averaging 8.8 yards per pass attempt, top 20 explosive offense through the air in the country. The big question here is, one, can Oregon win on first and second down, take that play action away, force DJU to just have some straight dropbacks? That's probably the recipe you're looking for the Oregon Ducks here.
And they're also going to need to do a very good job controlling DJU's legs. I think the one team that was able to hurt this team significantly was Texas Tech. Obviously Washington too, but Washington hurts everyone. Texas Tech was a team I don't think has the talent, shouldn't have played Oregon that tough, but they really did struggle at times dealing with those legs. And again, like the ability to improvise, and DJU has that. Again, not the fastest guy in the world, but I'd say a very, very good runner and a very physical runner.
He's a truck.
Similar to Tyler Shuck. So they're going to need to deal with him much better than I think they did against Texas Tech.
Yep, stopping the run, not giving the explosive play. The one thing I would push back on Texas Tech comp, and it's more, I'm getting, like, I see it on Twitter all the time. People trying to argue that this Oregon Duck team is not great because they played Texas Tech tough week 2. I was like, yeah, well, Alabama only beat USF by 3 points in week 3. This is a completely different version of this Oregon Ducks team, but I do get it. Like, I mean, DJU he has another element with his legs, and that's something that Oregon on a short week will need to prepare for.
And they've been hurting teams. They hurt Arizona doing it, or that is Oregon State, and they've used him in big spots. I think they did
Washington too.
Yesterday. Yeah. They use him in big spots, and he's very dangerous. So again, it will be. I know like Oregon does like to play very aggressive, very fast, but there is that. And again, I don't have any doubt that they can necessarily. They did a good job with Caleb Williams. Obviously, they very much bottled him up and contained his escapability, but it will be something they have to do and deal with a big physical running quarterback that, again, adds a new element to what Oregon State.
Yeah, and he's a little less improvisation and more just, hey, we're going to run a little QB power here and get downhill with DJU, an element that Oregon will need to be on top of. Look, we won 8 minutes. We haven't even talked about my pick to win the Heisman Trophy. Bo Nix, 6 touchdowns against Arizona State. Could have had 10 if they wanted to. I believe they took him out within the first drive of the second half. Bo Nix has been just about as good as any quarterback in the country. What makes this Oregon offense so special? We talk about it. Number 2 in points per game in the country, balanced. Like, this is a team that if you want to play 2 high safeties, hey, we're going to run it all over you. If you want to bring a safety into the box, leave Troy Franklin, Tez Johnson, Gary Bryant one-on-one, we're going to push that ball down the field. This Oregon team is the most two-dimensional offense that you see across the country, and it makes it, for a good Oregon State defense, it's just going to be a handful to stop it because they can do both run and throw at such a high level.
And you just need to cover so much ground is what it comes down to. Like the ability for them to space the field and just put pressure and make you play very fast, athletic. And that has been one thing I've watched Oregon State. You saw some moments against teams like Arizona or some of these teams that can spread it out athletically. Washington State obviously comes to mind. They're going to need to do a very good job controlling the flats and controlling the space. Because again, I don't know that they have the most athletic linebackers in the world. You're right. Being able to get Bucky Irving out in space, Gary Bryant and obviously Tez Johnson, they've both really been effective hurting teams after the catch. That's something I'll be looking for from Oregon State is they're going to need to play really good at that spot because they've given up some big plays off of balls into the flat or outside.
Yeah, I would. And Coach Stein, I mean, what a job. Like, I feel like every time I watch Oregon play, like, it just works. Whatever he dials up is just working. And it helps when you have Bo Nix and a ton of guys who are going to be playing in the NFL. but man, is he in his bag calling the plays. Thing I'm looking at, Oregon State, one of the better pass rushing units in the country. Still, and again, so much about this Oregon team, I feel like the narrative is Bo Nix carrying this team like Caleb Williams carried USC last year. Yes, Bo Nix is playing at an extremely high level. Everyone else, they're checking every box you want to check. You look at this offensive line, only one quarterback hurry against USC, only 5 quarterback hurries against Arizona State. They're giving Bo Nix time in pass protection. We all know what they can do in the run game. I think this is one of the best offensive lines run blocking in the country. Can Oregon pick up this Oregon State pass rush? Because, again, if they do and you give Bo Nix the time to operate, I mean, it's an offense that we haven't really seen anybody stop yet.
And that's such a big part of what Oregon State does. When they can get home with their front four and be really disruptive, this defense can look really good. When they can't effectively do it, I think to the Arizona game, especially that second half.
Washington State as well. Like,
Exactly.
Cam Warts.
When they can't be really disruptive, that is a very big problem for Oregon State. But also, again, the one thing you've seen from Oregon's offensive line is it's gotten way, way better. But you have seen moments against very good defensive lines where they give up a little pressure, especially with the tackles. Again, I think it has improved, which is what's making me think like, man, this Oregon team's really, really dangerous. But they're going to come up against a very good unit. And again, that if you're looking at it from the Oregon State perspective, that's going to be a huge part of this game. That group, that front four needs to be down.
Massive battle. I think part of the reason you're seeing like the improvement, Josh Connolly Jr. is going into his second year. Like, he's still a young cat, learning the ropes, had some pre-snap penalties earlier on in the year. He's been playing much better football. Then the transfer, Johnny Cornelius. Like, it makes sense. There were some growing pains. Took a transfer right tackle, a second-year guy at the left tackle spot. They're getting better as time goes on, and you're seeing the best version of this Oregon Ducks team when it matters most. So let's get to the pick here. Oregon State heading on the road, 14.5-point dogs. How are we feeling here?
I kind of like Oregon here. I just think the team speed is too much. And again, I watch. It's like Oregon State's really, really solid, but I do think I've seen moments where I just don't think the linebackers are playing fast enough. And if you don't play really fast against Bucky Irving and Tez Johnson and some of these guys they can attack you with when they stretch the field horizontally, that is, I think that becomes a huge problem. And I just think when you can't play at that top speed, Oregon's not the team you want to face right now because they're really testing you there.
Yeah, speed is one thing, right? And I get that. And I love this Oregon State team. If many people remember, I took Oregon State to win at home against Washington. I'm high on this Oregon State team. It's not only speed. This is a complete team that I think, more importantly, Oregon State's going to want to play bully ball. Oregon can play bully ball too. And I think the problem last year is they relied on that speed. They're not going to get bullied this year. Give me Oregon.
Well, I don't mean when I say that their speed, I just think that's the differentiator in this game. Oregon State can play physical with anyone. And I think Oregon can match them, which is why you kind of look, yeah, this is a national title contender. But I think where you really separate in this game is just Oregon has that higher caliber athlete, if you will. And I think comes a point when you can't just out physical a team and you're a little bit less athletic. I think that can become a bit of an issue.
Oregon covering the 14.5 points at home. This team's a wagon. That's right. I mean, you got to watch the team. And if you watch Oregon games, like, this is a team that I'm not betting against. I will go to my grave betting on the Oregon Ducks. Appreciate y'all rocking with the fellas. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. And we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.